Hello all, welcome to the DevOps Coach. My name is Kastro. I'm an AWS and DevOps trainer. In this video, we are going to focus on Module 1, that is DevOps Coach as provided by the JNTUH curriculum. This video majorly focuses on three major elements, which is the software development lifecycle methodologies that we have, and then we'll also be talking about what are the different software development lifecycle methodologies, such as the waterfall model and then the agile model, and also one of the frameworks that is available in the agile model, which is called as Scrum. So these are the topics in this video that are going to be covered. In the last video, we have understood what is meant by software development lifecycle. So software development lifecycle is a process, or it consists of a set of process in order to complete any software project. Now let us understand in how many ways we can complete a software project. So the first model that we are going to talk in SDLC is called as waterfall model. As the name itself tells, the waterfall, this model will also looks like a waterfall model. Waterfall model is nothing but here, whenever you see any waterfall, the water will flow from top of the mountains or top of the hills to the bottom of the hills. That means the water is following a step-by-step process. It is coming from the top of the mountains and then it is flowing down. Similarly, in the waterfall model also, the process of completing a project will flow in a step-by-step manner. If you remember, in the last video, we have talked about what are the different phases that are involved in a software development lifecycle. We have seen there are 7 different phases that are available, starting from the analysis phase, design phase, implementation phase, testing phase, and maintenance phase. In between, based upon the project requirement, there can be multiple individual phases as well. But on a large scale, these could be the major steps that are available in any type of software development lifecycle. So here, what is meant by waterfall model? So waterfall model is nothing but it is basically a step-by-step process in order to complete any software project. So here, what is the first step? The first step is the analysis, which is the requirements gathering. So here in the requirements gathering, what the software people or what the IT engineers will do is they will be gathering the requirements that are required in order to develop any software project. Suppose assume that a client has come up to a company and he wants to launch an e-commerce platform. So once the client comes up with the idea, the IT team will do the rest of the activities in order to meet the requirement of the client. Now, in order to develop any application, the very first step is to analyze the requirements and to gather the requirements. That's called as analysis phase. In the analysis phase, we are going to calculate or we are going to gather whatever the requirements that are required in order to develop the project. Now here, what does it mean by requirements? Requirements are nothing but how many people are required in order to develop the project. What kind of developers we need, how many developers we need, how the developers should work. So all these things will be characterized in the analysis phase, which is also called as requirements gathering phase. Now, once the analysis phase is completed, then we will move to the next step, which is called as design phase. Okay, then we'll move to the design phase. Now, in the design phase, what will happen is whatever the analysis that are gathered, based upon the gathering of the analysis, the design of the software project will be implemented. So here in the design phase, what we basically do is we are going to make the UI design, that is user interface design and other requirements design. Now, once the design phase gets completed, then we'll move to the next step, which is called as implementation phase. Now, what we'll do in the implementation phase? In the implementation phase, developers will work in order to develop the code whichever is required to launch the application. Whatever the application that client wants to see, based upon the requirements of the clients, developers will write the code in the implementation phase. Now, once the implementation phase gets completed, then we will move to the next step, which is called as testing phase. Now, in the testing phase, what will happen is whatever the code that is developed by the developers or whatever the code that is written by the developers, this code we have to test it. whether it is working or not, we will do integration testing here in the testing phase. Once the testing team also gives the approval that this code is working fine and there are no bugs or there are no problems that are available in the code, then comes the deployment phase and then comes the maintenance phase. So these are the different phases in the waterfall model. And remember, this is all a step-by-step process. Okay, waterfall model is basically a step-by-step process. Now here, there comes a problem. As I was telling, it's basically a step-by-step process. Let's say that you are working as one of the members for a particular project. Now you have completed the analysis phase and you have completed the design phase. Now, when you are about to start the coding phase, or when you are about to start the coding for the project, or when you are in the middle of writing the code, let's say that a client has come to you and he said that I need some more additional information which should be available in my application. Now, what is the problem here? So client is interfering in between the phases of the waterfall model. Okay, in between the different phases of the waterfall model, client has come and interrupted the flow. Now, what is the disadvantage of this one? The disadvantage of this one is in the analysis phase, all the analyses are gathered, whatever the analyses are gathered, and then in the design phase, the design has also got successfully made, and then in the implementation phase, the code is being written. Now, when the code is being written, client has come up with a new idea saying that I need one more option or I need one more feature in my application. Now, what they have to do or what the team members will do, team members cannot write the code completely here. Why? The reason is client has come up with a new idea. Now, since client has come up with a new idea, they have to again restart the entire process from the very first phase. That's called as analysis phase. Now here, what is the problem? The problem is if client involves or during the execution of the project or during the implementation of the project, if client involves in any of the steps, there comes the problem. The problem is all about the going back to the previous steps and then restarting from the very first stage. Now, why this problem happens in the waterfall model? This problem happens because the analysis or the requirements gathering is finalized in the very first step. Now, if client is coming up with a new idea, again the requirements and analysis will get changed. The gathering of the requirements and analysis of the requirements will get changed. Now, in that case, what they have to do or what the team has to do, whichever team is following the waterfall model, they have to again go back and do the analysis and gather the requirements. And then they have to move to the design phase, and then they have to move the implementation phase, and then the testing phase, and then maintenance phase. Now, assume it in this way again. Now, when you are in the testing phase, now again client came up to you and he said that I want one more additional feature to deploy in my application. Now, when you are in the testing phase, if client comes up with a new idea, again you have to go back and gather the requirements which are required, and then again you have to restart from the very first step. That is the major drawback of waterfall model. So waterfall model is basically a step-by-step process. If you are completing the step 1, then only you can move to the step 2. If you are completing the step 2, then only you can move to the step 3. At one point of time, if client interferes in any of these stages, again you have to restart the same process. So that's why it's called as step-by-step process. Only after completing first step, then only we can move to the second step. Only after completing the second step, then only we can move to the third step. Likewise, only after completing one step, then only we can go ahead to the next step. So it is basically a linear methodology. Okay, it is basically a linear methodology. What does it mean by linear methodology? As you see, the waterfall will fall from top to bottom. So it is following a linear path. Okay, it is following a linear path. Similarly, in the waterfall model also, linear methodology is nothing but one step at a time. Okay, you cannot directly jump from analysis phase to the implementation phase. So first you have to complete this step, and then you can move to the next step, and then you can move to the next step, and then the further steps. So that's why it's called as a linear methodology. Suppose in real time, we cannot directly jump from, suppose let's say when you are in the implementation phase, you cannot directly jump to some other steps, either forward or backward. Something like when you see this kind of scenario, now here, if you observe here, the waterfall is going backward. This is not even possible in the real-time scenarios. Similarly, here also, whenever you are working on a project which adopted the waterfall model, you cannot go back to the previous step directly. Again, you have to restart from the very beginning. That's why it's called as linear methodology, and it is one of the oldest models that is available in SDLC. Nobody is working or no software company is adopting this waterfall model. Why the companies are not adopting this waterfall model? Because it is a step-by-step process and a linear methodology. Only after completion of one step, then only you can move to the next step. And if at any point of time, if client interferes in between the stages, then again you have to move back to the very first step. So because of this disadvantage, the waterfall model is not used in the real-time scenarios. And here in the waterfall model, the requirements are fixed. What does it mean by requirements? In the analysis phase or in the requirements gathering phase, whatever the client comes up with an initial idea, based upon the initial idea, the requirements will be fixed. Now, if client interferes in between, again that causes disturbance to the work progress. So here in the waterfall model, the requirements or the client requirements are totally fixed. That is also one of the disadvantages, because in real time, the requirements may not fix every time. Suppose let's say you want to go to a grocery shop and you have brought some items. Now assume that you forgot some items to buy. Now what will you do? You will go back to the grocery shop and you will buy the items. Okay, the requirements will keep on changing based upon the requirement of the client. That is also one of the disadvantages in the waterfall model. And again, here one more disadvantage is the client involvement is very less. Or you can also say that the client involvement is almost zero. Why the client involvement should be zero, or why the client involvement is very less? Because if client involves in any one of these stages, again there comes a drawback to the flow of the progress of the work, and hence the client involvement is very less in the waterfall model. So that's the reason why client's involvement is very less, and also the requirements are fixed. If client involvement is high, what will happen? Now when you are there in the last phase, if client comes up with a new idea, again you have to restart the entire work from the very beginning stage. So that's why the requirements are very fixed in the waterfall model, and client involvement is also very less. And here one more disadvantage is client can see the output of the project only after successful completion of the deployment. Client cannot see the output of the application or output of the website in the middle of the any of these phases. Client can only see the output of the project at the end of deployment process only. That is again one more disadvantage. Why it is considered as disadvantage? Because let's say you have completed as a part of a team, you have completed all these steps and you are now ready to deploy that application. And you have deployed that application into the server. Now, once you deploy the application into the server, client will see the application. Now, if client is not getting satisfied with the application, then what he will tell? He will tell you to redo the work by doing some modifications. Now, when client comes up and tells you to redo the entire work again it takes more amount of time. Suppose let's say in order to complete all these stages for a particular project, let's say it took 6 months of time. Now, after 6 months of period, client has seen the output of the project and client is not satisfied. Now, when the client is not satisfied, whatever the 6 months of time that you have spent on the work, all that 6 months of time is going to get wasted, because ultimately the client satisfaction is very much important in any software project. So that's also one more disadvantage, because client can see the output only at the end of the project. And here there is a high risk of project failure. Why high risk of project failure will be there? The reason is, let's say you are ready to deploy that application into the server. Now, if the application doesn't function at the last stage, okay, if the application doesn't function at the last stage, what will happen? There will be a risk of a project failure. So in the waterfall model, there is always high risk of a project failure, and there won't be any kind of feedback which we will receive until the completion of the project. Okay, the client feedback is very much important in the development of any software project. And if you are following the waterfall model, it is not possible to get the client feedback. Why client feedback is not possible? Because client can only see the output only at the end of your all the phases. That is only after completion of the deployment of the application, then only client can see the output. Now, if client, once the application is deployed into the servers, if client feedback is negative, again you have to go back to the very first step and you have to restart the work. Okay, so that's one more disadvantage with respect to the waterfall model. And this waterfall model is not suitable for large and complex projects. If the project duration is, let's say, for 1 year of duration or 2 years of duration, in such cases, the waterfall model is not the best model in order to develop the application. Okay, in order to develop the application. To cope up with all these disadvantages, apart from the waterfall model, we have got several advanced models. One such model, which is most commonly used in the real-time scenario, is called as Agile model. Okay, it is called as Agile model. So let's talk about the second methodology that is available in the process of software development, which is called as Agile model. Now, what will happen in an Agile model? Let's say that you want to develop an application. Here, I'm taking it as phone pay application. Now, a company has come to you or a client has come to you and they said that they want to develop a phone pay application. Now, in the phone pay application, the requirements of the client is in my application, anybody can do their mobile recharge, anybody can do their DTH recharge, anybody can pay their electricity bills, they can book their train tickets, they can book their movie tickets, they can order the food, anything they can do, they can buy the insurance, anything they can do. Now, these are the requirements of the client. What is the requirement? The requirement is the client wants a one application which is having multiple features. That's the project that has come to a company. Now, if this project is adopting the agile model, what will happen? Say, in order to develop this application, let's say we have 3 developers that are working. Now, each developer is going to do the tasks individually. Now, in the waterfall model, what will happen is the entire project will be done at a single stretch. But in the agile model, what will happen is the entire project will be divided into multiple stages or multiple phases. Now, let's say developer 1 is going to develop a page which is related to recharge. Developer 2 is going to develop a page which is related to DTH. And developer 3 is going to develop a page which is related to electricity bill. Remember, all these options are available in a single application that's called as PhonePe. Now here, how this works? So here in the agile model, the entire project has been divided into multiple parts. Okay, the entire project has been divided into multiple parts. And this process of dividing the entire project into multiple parts is called as sprints. Okay, it is called as sprints. Now, what will happen in sprint? In sprint 1, developer 1 will work towards the development of recharge page. In sprint 2, developer 2 will work for the development of DTH related page. In sprint 3, developer 3 will work with respect to the electricity recharge page or electricity bill pay page. What is the advantage of this one? The advantage of this one is the works are being completed simultaneously. Okay, the works are being completed simultaneously. Now, the another advantage of completing the work simultaneously is the progress of the work will be very fast. Now, when the progress of the work is very fast, there won't be any problem for the client to wait for a longer time to see the output. Now, let's say in sprint 1, what will happen? The planning phase will happen, design phase will happen, build phase will happen, test phase, review phase, and once it is successfully reviewed, the sprint 1 will get launched into the application. Now, the advantage of dividing a project into multiple sprints is client can see the output at the end of each sprint. Okay, client can see the output at the end of each sprint. Now, let's say you have developed the recharge page. Now, you have successfully planned the recharge page and then you have designed the recharge page. You have built it, that is, you have written the code in order to work with the recharge page, and then you have tested that code and you have reviewed that code and once the code is successfully reviewed, you are going to launch that particular page. Okay, you're going to launch that particular page. Now, is the client able to see the output of his application? Yes, maybe not the complete application the client may not see, but at least a part of the application is being seen by the client at the end of each sprint. Now, let's say that you have completed sprint 1 and then you have launched your application, which is a recharge based page. Now, if client doesn't feel satisfactory, what you should do? Client will give the negative feedback. Assume that client gave the negative feedback. Now, again, you have to rework on the same page. Now, what is the advantage of this one? The advantage of this one is multiple works or multiple pages will be developed simultaneously. Now, when multiple pages are being developed simultaneously, there won't be any problem in the progress of the work. Similarly, in sprint 2, DTH related page will be developed and it will be launched. And in sprint 3, electricity bill pay related page will be developed and it will be launched. So the idea of working with agile model is instead of working, okay, in the waterfall model, we will work the complete project as a single step. But in the agile model, the entire project will be divided into multiple phases. And these phases are called as sprints. Now, in each sprint, one work will be taken over by an individual or a group of people. Now, in sprint 1, let's say not just one developer is working, let's say 2 developers are working. So based upon the size of the sprint, the dependencies or the resources will get different. Now, this is how the agile model will work. Agile model is something where the entire projects get divided into multiple sprints. This agile model is started in the year 2001 and it is developed by John Kahn and Martin Fowler. So these are the 2 developers who has implemented this agile model in the SDLC methodologies. Now, as I said, the entire project in the agile model will be breakdown into different phases, and these phases are called as sprints. So that's why we call agile model as an iterative approach, whereas waterfall model is basically a linear methodology and agile model is an iterative approach. Now, what does it mean by iterative approach? Iterative approach is nothing but a cyclic process. So in each phase or in each sprint, one work will be taken over, and once after completing the work, then they will move to the sprint 1. Whoever has worked on sprint 1, since his work gets completed, he will move to a new sprint. And one more advantage of working with agile model is in the agile model, the requirements are not fixed. Suppose, let's say, if client has come up, when you are working on sprint 2, if client comes up with a new requirement, again, that new requirement can be considered as a new sprint. And then for the new sprint, a new team of people will be allocated. So that's the reason why in the agile model, requirements are not fixed. Every time, whenever a client comes up with a new idea, it is always possible to implement that new idea in the development of an application. So that's one advantage of working with agile model when we compare with the waterfall model. And the other advantage is client can come and involve in any stage of developing the application. Throughout the development of the project, client can come and tell his own ideas, and the implementation of the new ideas is always possible in the agile model. And the other main advantage of working with agile model is the feedback is available at the end of each sprint. Suppose, let's say in the sprint 1, mobile recharge related page is developed. Now, once the mobile recharge page is developed and once it is launched, client can see the output of only the mobile recharge page, and then client will give the feedback. Now, if the client feedback is positive, then they can work on the other sprints. If the client feedback is negative, again they can rework on the same sprint and they try to develop according to the requirement of the client. So here in the agile model, client feedback is possible to be taken at the end of each sprint, whereas client feedback is not possible till the completion of the entire project in the waterfall model. And there is always a chance for the incremental development in the agile model. What does it mean by incremental development? Whenever a client comes up with a new idea, that new idea is called as incremental development. And here in the agile model, the budget is not a constraint. Whenever client comes up with a new idea, the budget will keep on increasing. But whereas in the agile model, the budget is not a constraint here. So that's why, since the budget is not a constraint, the client can come up with a new idea at any given stage of the project development, and that new development can be called as an incremental development. And that's the reason why Agile model is most commonly adopted in the software development lifecycle. There are 6 major advantages of working with Agile model. The first one is called as faster delivery of any working project or any working software. Suppose instead of waiting for months or years to see the final product, as it happens in the waterfall model, what happens in the Agile model? Agile breaks the whole development process into different sprints. This means the client can get the frequent releases of the working software, and that can be tested and that can be used by the stakeholders of the project. And the other advantage is the customer satisfaction will be at a higher level in the Agile model. The reason is, with early and continuous delivery, customers can get their hands-on experience on the product and provide their valuable feedback. So that's why increased customer satisfaction is always a positive thing in the Agile model. And the third advantage is enhanced adaptability and enhanced flexibility is there. Agile is basically built for to adopt the new changes. Its iterative approach always allows teams to easily adjust to new requirements according to the market shifts or according to the technological advancements during the development cycle or during the software development cycle. The fourth major advantage is there will be an effective communication and there will also be an effective collaboration between the team members, whoever is working on the project. And the other advantage is there is always a low risk of waste of time and low risk of waste of resources. Why there is always a low risk of waste of time and waste of resources? Because in the Agile model, what will happen? It is always sprint process. Suppose if you take the example of construction of a house, so the construction of a house will be divided into multiple sprints. You can see the multiple sprints here. So in sprint one, what will happen? In sprint one, planning will take place. In the sprint two, some other work, the material gathering will take place. Like this, in each phase or in each sprint, client can see the output of the project. Whereas in the waterfall model, client can see only the final output. But whereas in the Agile model, client will be able to see what is happening at the end of each sprint. That means client can see the progress of the work throughout the project development. That's another advantage. And the other advantage is there is always a chance for continuous improvement of the product and continuous quality improvement of the product as well. So Agile basically focuses on feedback mechanism. Since feedback is always available, there is always a chance for the improvement of the product to better the quality of the product. So these are the major advantages of the Agile model. But one thing that we need to remember is Agile is not something that fits for all types of project, but most of the project will adopt this kind of a methodology, which is called as Agile methodology in the real-time scenarios. So to keep it in a nutshell, Agile methodology is basically a set of principles and practices in order to develop any software project. And in this process, there is always a chance of development and there is always a chance of improvement and adaptation to the changing requirements of the client. So that's in simple about Agile methodology. Let's look at what are the different terminologies that are involved in the Agile methodology. The first terminology is called as backlog grooming. Now, what is meant by backlog grooming? Backlog grooming is nothing but team meeting to happen in order to identify what are the pending works that are available on a day-to-day basis. The second terminology is called as stories. Stories are nothing but what are the tasks or what are the works that are need to be done on an immediate basis or on a long run basis or on a short term basis. That is called as stories. And the next one is called as story points, which means what is the duration in order to complete a particular story. So for each completion of a story or for each completion of a sprint, there will be points allocated. Suppose, let's say, if a task is completed in one day, let's say 5 points are given. If a task is taken to complete within 3 days, then let's say 10 points are given. So like this, based upon the progress of the work or based upon the faster progress of the work, for each sprint, there will be a points that are allocated. The major intention of this point allocation is to motivate the team members in order to complete the work at a faster pace. That's called as story points. And the next one is called as sprint planning. So sprint planning is nothing but on a daily basis, team meetings will happen. Whoever is involved in the project in order to identify what are the priority tasks that need to be completed on any given day. And the next terminology is called as a sprint. Sprint is basically a set of stories in order to complete the task. That's called as sprint duration and sprint goal. So in each sprint, what is the work that need to be carried out and how much time it will take to complete that particular sprint? That's called a sprint. And the next one, which is called as a Scrum. Remember, Scrum is not an SDLC methodology. It is a framework that is used in the Agile model. So what is meant by Scrum? Scrum is nothing but it is again a process of daily team meeting in order to discuss the status of the work. That's called as Scrum. And the last one is called as retrospective. Retrospective is nothing but review meetings after each sprint gets completed. Whether the sprint is successful in deployment stage or whether the sprint is successful in testing phase or in the development phase, that's called as retrospective. So retrospective is nothing but review meetings which will happen after the completion of each sprint. So these are the different terminologies that are involved in the Agile methodology. Then comes the next model, which is called as a Scrum model. As I was mentioning, Scrum is not a part of SDLC methodology. It is basically a framework that is used in the Agile model. So what is meant by Scrum here? Suppose if you observe this particular scenario, so here the orchestration is happening. So what is meant by orchestration? Multiple musicians are going to work on developing a music node. Now there will be one person who is called as a conductor. Okay, this guy is called as conductor. Now, what is the role of this conductor whenever orchestration is happening or whenever orchestra is being practiced or being composed? The role of this conductor is to ensure whether all the team members are working within the time scale and within the equal modulation or not. That's the role of conductor. Similarly, in the Scrum model also, Scrum is basically an agile development framework which basically streamlines the software development through the iterative process and incremental process. So what is meant by iterative process? Agile is basically an iterative process. And incremental process is nothing but whenever a new requirement comes, based upon the new requirements, the project requirement or the project will get enhanced. That's called as incremental process. So Scrum is basically a framework that is available in the Agile methodology. And this Scrum was first created in the year 1993 by the team of Jeff Sutherland. And here, Scrum is something that keeps everyone in tune. As I was mentioning, the conductor role is to keep everyone in tune with the work. So similarly, Scrum is one framework which will ensure that everyone is in tune, that is, everyone is working constantly for the better progress of the work. And that will ensure each team member play their part efficiently and effectively. That's called as Scrum model. Now, this is the basic example of Scrum model. So in the Scrum model, there will be multiple teams or multiple parts that are involved. So Scrum basically offers the adaptability and efficiency in order to ensure the continuous flow of work throughout the project development. And Scrum is something which aims to fulfill the customer needs through transparent communication and shared responsibility, along with that commitment to the ongoing project. So this is all about the Scrum model. Now let us understand what are the roles that are available in the Scrum. The first role is called as product owner, and the second role is called as a Scrum master, and the third role is called as Scrum team. So these are the three major roles that are available in the Scrum framework or in the Scrum model. So if you observe here, this is basically a Scrum team. Now for a Scrum team, there will be a master person, and that person is called as Scrum master. And for every team, there will also be a person who is called as a product owner. Now here, product owner is somebody who will have a direct relation with the stakeholders of the project. Now, product owner will also have the direct relation with the business owner. Let's understand what is the role of product owner. The product owner is somebody who will act as a representative for the stakeholders and the customers who are going to use the software. And the role of product owner is to translate the vision of the stakeholders to the project team. And then comes the next role, which is called as a Scrum Master. Now here, Scrum Master is somebody who will have a direct relation with the business owner, and business owner is somebody who will have a direct relation with the stakeholders of the project. So Scrum Master basically leads the team, guiding them to comply the work within the rules and process of the methodology. So he will ensure whether the work is going smoothly or not. And the other role of Scrum Master is to manage the reduction of impediments of the project. So what does it mean by impediments of the project? Any backlogs that are available or any problems that are being faced. So Scrum Master will identify the problems during the development of the project. And Scrum Master directly works with the product owner. Okay, Scrum Master directly works with the product owner. And the Scrum Master is somebody who will keep an in charge of providing any additional resources that are required in order to develop the project. Now, suppose let's say in order to develop a particular project, let's say they need one important advanced tool. Now, Scrum Master is somebody who will help the team members in order to provide the resources, whatever is required in order to develop any software project. That's the role of Scrum Master. And then comes the final role, which is called as a Scrum team. Scrum team usually consists of developers who have a technical knowledge in order to develop the project or in order to write the code which is required according to the client. So these are the different roles that are available in the Scrum. So this is all about this particular session, where in this session we have talked about three major elements. One is called as waterfall model. The second one is called as agile model. And in the agile model, we have talked about a framework which is called as a Scrum framework. In the next session, we'll be talking about other topics that are available in the first unit. Thank you.